From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
Joseph is back. He's back, baby. Only been a week, but it feels like a year.
A week and 2 days, 9 days of only talking about Star Wars to my wife. It's so weird.
Were you like, now, Sarah, today's conversation is brought to you by...
I asked her a lot of follow-up questions. Felt they were a little tedious, but what are you going to do?
There you go. Also, Jennifer Landa is out this week. It's a busy summertime for all of us, which we'll go into in Life Adventures, but Jen sends her regards. We do, though, want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by something. Our merch shop on Fourth Wall. Check out our merch store. Pick up a t-shirt to help support the show. Represent ForceCenter out in the galaxy. There's other things there as well. Yes, I was teasing it, and I finally did it. And new items will be added on the way if you want them. But you can go to ForceCenter-shop.fourthwall.com. That's right, ForceCenter-shop.fourthwall.com. Or if you're watching here on YouTube, link down below. Get some merch, support the show. That's our merch update. But Joseph, we still have some asks.
That is right. We are still building towards trying to get more paid patrons on Patreon. I know that it is a very difficult time for a lot of folks financially, but we would love to get to 430 paid patrons. I am a little distracted because I was checking where we're actually at, and we're lower than 430. We're a little lower than we've been, which is understandable. Again, it's understandable. But hey, yes. Maybe we'll drop from 430. Totally understandable that it's a bizarre financial time. But if you'd like to help us out, you get access to things like the Discord for just a very low amount a month. We're not looking for any sort of a financial number to hit, just a money number, just 430 paid patrons. So check it out if you're interested. When we reach 430, we're going to release an old classic episode of Star Wars Ranked, an audio version with new exciting visuals by Jennifer. And as we know, whenever we ask Jennifer to do something that we think like, hey, this will be fun and simple, she turns it into like a Busby Berkeley extravaganza of fantastic video editing. So look forward to that.
Yeah, indeed. Yes, get into that Discord. A lot of fun going on in there. So, all right, we're going to dive in. We got some Star Wars news, but before we do that, it's definitely time to catch up because, I haven't talked to Joseph in 9 days. So welcome back, Sarah. Any adventures?
Yes, I've had a lot of adventures. I was bummed that I missed last week because I have done lots of Star Wars adjacent things. I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark on 4th of July in the movie theater, which was real fun. I saw Howard the Duck, which I've never seen. Ken, have you seen Howard the Duck?
I have seen the duck boobs, yes. Yes.
Did you see the duck boobs as a child?
I saw them when maybe my parents did not want me to see them. Yes, it was one of those. It was not in the theater. I think it was a rental, but it was that like from the maker of Star Wars, A Lovable Duck Story. Get in here, Ken. Get in here, Kenny. We're gonna watch this as a family.
Yeah. I don't think you are alone. I always heard that it was like I remember as a kid hearing that it wasn't great, and I know it bombed and all that. Right. Right. So I was like, man, someday I got to see that. So it came up that there was a screening where the co-writer and the director, Willard Huyck, who people will also know as, he and his wife and writing partner, Gloria Katz, did some of the ghostwriting on the first Star Wars film. They wrote Temple of Doom, all sorts of American Graffiti, all sorts of collaborations with Lucas and Willard Huyck, who's, getting up there, like all that crew, was doing a rare Q&A after the film. So I was like, well, I've never seen Howard the Duck. I got to go see it when this guy is talking. And man, yeah, the film itself, obviously, people who've seen it are very well aware that it's just weird. It reminds me of that George Lucas interview that he did about the Clone Wars animated series with Conan O'Brien, where he was explaining like it's not a silly cartoon for kids, but it has a lot of important family lessons for kids, and it's got a lot of violence, but it's not like edgy South Park, animated show. And Conan O'Brien was like, so you've made this for no one. And George Lucas kind of laughs it off. But it is, I think Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz are aligned with Lucas in that sort of just like unstoppable curiosity of just like, we, yeah, you probably shouldn't put, a cute wiseacre duck into a kind of cosmic horror Lovecraftian plot and then also make it kind of a raunchy 80s
Mm.
almost sex comedy at the same time, but
Mm.
but we want to, so we're going to.
Here we are.
And I understand how people,
Yeah.
like your parents are like, I'll take Kenny
Yeah.
to, to the George Lucas duck movie. We're like, what the
Yep.
uh but it from a modern perspective, it makes it really unique and really fascinating. And Willard Huyck was just people were trying to dig for a why to try to understand, like,
Mm.
what did you and George do? Why did you do this? And he just kept he was asked twice about the infamous shot. If nobody's ever seen it, just there's a shot of we crash through an apartment and there's a duck taking a bath and they're just topless and have explicit human nipples. People kind of tried to ask him twice, like, why? And he's like, well, the person making the ducks came to me and said, this duck is in the bathtub, right? Should they have a shirt on? Like, it's like, it seemed fun.
No.
So
Yeah.
we did it. And I think a generation has wrestled with why? Like, the answer is seemed fun.
I might have to revisit it because I have not seen it since that time, and it becomes that thing where you just like, oh, the pop culture standard response is what a horrible mess of a freaky movie, right? And maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know, but I just love what you're talking about. Of let's just go back and actually, this wouldn't get made now, or maybe it would. I don't know. Maybe more should. Who knows? But like, let's explore the whys, and sometimes the answer is why not. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a wild time. So yeah, that was a good Star Wars adjacent story, and he had good stories about George because the interviewer was asking him like, "So how did this come to be? What made you want to do this?" He's like, "Well, we were having lunch with George, and he walked us down to a comic book shop and showed us a Howard the Duck comic and said we should make a movie of this," and we were like, "Okay." Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so charming, so funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Then I will wrap up my life adventures. I think it is Star Wars adjacent to talk about Superman.
Totally.
I would imagine a lot of people have seen it. I'll keep it spoiler free, but it is not surprisingly, it's a hopeful film. But it also, right at the top, deals with some of the kind of things we've been talking about lately with the Jedi, about when people intervene and why and under what authority, and the sort of the tricky part of telling stories about superheroes and Jedi are like, yes, they're an organization that chooses to go, I'm going to determine what I think is right, and if I think something morally incorrect is happening, I'm going to act. And we've had a lot of great discussions, and I'm sure we will continue to, about how that functions in our perspective of the real world. But we've been talking about it. It keeps coming up with the Jedi. I think we've been talking about Acolyte and things like that, and what the Rey and the New Jedi Order movie might be like. It's been coming up in those contexts. So I was kind of delightfully surprised that the Superman film started with that discussion.
Yeah, wonderful film. Big fan of it, and I think you're right. I've been seeing a lot too of it as a very Star Warsy film, which just means Star Wars is dealing with these timeless, universal themes, and I get why people would say that about Superman. But I like what's at the core. I like what it's saying. But yeah, one of my favorite things is is what you're talking about. Just a non-cynical approach to me of here's someone who wants to do good. So let's maybe support that idea. And yes, there's some conversation. That's why I think that, no true spoilers, but it's in the trailers. But the Lois Lane interview scene, I think goes. It's a wonderful conversation, wonderful film. Yeah, maybe we'll do another center breakdown of it when we're ready. But I loved it.
No, that would be great. And then last thing, anybody who maybe follows me on Facebook saw I posted a little bit about an old friend who passed away. So if I'm at all off during our episodes this week, it is definitely on my mind. And I actually got the text from another friend that this old friend had passed away as I was sitting down to watch Superman. So I extra appreciated how hopeful that film is, and just a great reminder. Star Wars is so much about hope, that hope is a good thing. It is not just some empty easy solution. It is something that people really need to keep going, and I really felt that this week with the double bill of finding out that a friend had passed away and then watching this film, and that film helped me a lot.
That's good. That's good. No, much love to the family and their loss, and you. This isn't a backdoor Superman review, but I think there's just that's why I keep saying it's non-cynical. It is easy to be cynical. It's easy to just say hope, man, and punk is caring, punk is kindness. All those things that have emerged from the movie are wonderful themed discussions, but something truly uplifting about the film that is definitely needed.
Yeah, and happy to discuss it more in the future. But what have your life adventures been?
Just me, squirrels, now a skunk. I'm now feeding a skunk, which has been a problem because skunks can be a little problematic around the old, not just Pepe Le Pew problematic, but actual problematics in my yard. But I made eye contact with this skunk one time. I caught it in the backyard, like it was at the bottom of my stairs, and he's not a nighttime animal. He shows up at like 7:00 when the sun's out still, and we made eye contact, and Joseph, the moment and I'm sure you're probably in a similar spot. You love your squirrels as well. Mm-hmm. You've had dogs. The moment you make eye contact with an animal and see the pupils, see the whites of their eyes, and this skunk was like, "What are you doing here?" I have been now. I just this little skunk is. I protect him too, and I feed him at night too. And I have video footage of this skunk tasting peanuts for the first time in his life. And it inspired me to be like, I want to be that joyful. I want that much joy in my life. Whoa! So all that, and this is good. I needed that. I did have a little Star Wars adventure. For those in the ForceCenter Discord, maybe I should issue a general apology. David Aspo had called in to the Blathering, my show on my YouTube channel, to apologize for posting a link to an interview in our Discord that seemed to rile me up, and I had to assure David it certainly wasn't you, because I actually love the interview. And the interview is Jon Stewart's The Weekly Show, which I am a fan of. I think it's actually his best work. It's a chance to have some really wonderful conversations. And he had on Tony Gilroy and a guy named Mike Duncan, who's a revolution expert, and I think he has a podcast called Revolutions. And I want to say this, it was a fascinating conversation, and I absolutely recommend it to everyone. Gilroy's pretty fascinating, and there was a lot of, he even kind of directly referenced, like, now that I'm not selling the show, I can say, and it's not even talking about Andor or Star Wars. It was a different Tony than we've seen on this Emmy press tour, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Great interview. And I want to say, with all due respect to this Mike guy, he was a very intelligent guy, an expert on revolutions. There was two moments, Joseph, that were drive-by shootings of the sequel trilogy and a little bit of the prequel trilogy that set me through the roof, that I was actually looking for the guy on social media as if I had shown up to a bar to look for him, to take him outside for a fight. I was so angry.
You're going to sick Skunky on him.
Skunky's coming for you. Mm-hmm. And it was this, I don't want to rehash it, but there's this, there is a thing in the sequel, 7, 8, and 9. I'm not talking about Disney. 7, 8, and 9 have a little bit, especially 7, they lack a little of the world building. We talked about it in 2015. It was kind of one of those conversation points that was always there. I do believe they turned away from quote unquote politics a little bit in a direct way. But me now, you probably, most of around the ForceCenter, I would say, have a view that politics is not just, I'm talking about policy. I might say the Phantom Menace at times. Politics is about Superman going, no, kindness, empathy. Those are things that should fuel policy. Like that's political. And there's a lot of that in the sequel trilogy. But also, I think in 7, there's absolutely, I'd say, some pretty strong political strains about, hey, what if neo-Nazis came back? And I believe it's intentional on JJ's choice, even though you could definitely say, and I agree with the statement, that it's, Force Awakens definitely had the let's bring TIE fighters and stormtroopers back. But they didn't they made that work in a deeper level. And I get really frustrated when someone with that's not a grifter, that's not angry in a car, that's highly, highly intelligent and skilled, can't take a moment to dive into something a little deeper, and they just sweep it away with that condescending, smug attitude that sends me in a rage. And that just, I had to recalibrate. I had to recalibrate and just let it go. But and then poor David in our ForceCenter Discord points, and I just was like, I want that guy to fight. Like, I'm going after that guy. But I highly recommend the interview. Tony Gilroy is truly fascinating when he's just talking outside of Star Wars about what he did in Star Wars with his knowledge and love of history. So it's a really good interview. I do recommend it.
Well, good. I'm glad that you got some positives out of it, as well as. Did this guy generally have the attitude that like Andor was the first Star Wars to actually tackle politics?
Yes, they acknowledge some of the prequels. And Jon Stewart's a Star Wars fan, right? I'd say he still comes from a little bit of that Patton Oswalt school of young boomer, old Gen X. Let's make our jokes. But he's a Star Wars fan, and they brought up some of the prequel stuff, and then this guest. John brought up so this is how Liberty dies kind of moment, and the guy did one of those like, yeah, except for Tony actually knows how to write, and that's where that was the first like strike one, and he started saying that to the point where Tony actually goes, "Hey, I just want to pause here for a second. I'm not saying this. I want everyone to acknowledge that I am not the one saying this."
Man's been in the trenches now, and he knows.
Yes.
How to navigate the Star Wars conversation.
Yeah, and it leads into we'll have that conversation in the summertime, maybe with that, but like I do think, and I actually give Andor credit, it is so direct and simple in what it's presenting, where the other stuff is you and I could talk for hours about the colored speeders in Book of Boba Fett and how political they are, but I know just passing through it's not politics where Andor is. So that's where it is. And he fell for that trap.
Yeah, and I think the analysis of art that kind of drives me up the wall is like, look, George Lucas is sometimes an impatient writer, and he is not, all that stuff. There's writing. I think there is somebody who loves it all. There are, I think, interesting writing critiques and observations to be made. But conflating the quality of writing with the intent of the writing gets to that, like, I understand that you would like a taco, but the man made a hot dog, and you're calling his hot dog a bad taco. Like the prequels were not trying to be a incredibly gritty, in-depth story of ground level freedom fighters feeling the weight of imperial policies. That's not what that story was. So to compare the extremely political and I think ultimately well-written Padme line to stuff from Andor is like, there's discussions to be had about quality of writing, but that to me isn't one of them. It's the politics are a factor in this myth / action adventure / soap opera / political thriller. The Star Wars films, I think the sequels and the prequels kind of get bashed for not being very specific things that people want them to be when their goals are very different. And I always like criticizing art based on what it's trying to be.
That's you introduced the engage with the art presented to you ethos here years ago, dare I say decades ago, the long as we've been going. And I agree that I don't want to, we got news to discuss, but it's just something. And I had an exchange with an old high school classmate on my Superman video I put out that I said it's explicitly political, even though it's also all these other things. And they did the whole, why does everything have to be political? I hate what they did with the new Ghostbusters. They forced a same-sex couple into it. And, I would argue that is not political. That is reflection of real life, but whatever. I guess that's not their choice. But I also pointed back out to your favorite thing is Ghostbusters 84, and that is one of the most explicitly political films of a Reagan era. Big fear of big government. The EPA is the enemy. The ghosts of the undesirables of the city. It's Aykroyd's libertarian fantasy. Sorry you missed that. Sorry you missed that. Anyways.
Yep.
I also fed some squirrels.
Good. And I hope they didn't listen to the podcast with you, because I don't want the squirrels pissed off.
All right. Well, thanks for following me on that journey. Are you ready for some news?
Yeah, let's talk more about Andor and casual judgments against genre fiction.
Yes. Oh, God, you're right. Yes, that is where we're going to be going. Yes, Andor, a show I love, you love, Jennifer loves. We are fans of the show. Andor, a Star Wars story. Its official title now. And the Emmys. Andor, here's the story. It's pretty simple. Received 14 Primetime Emmy nominations this week. The biggest one is its nomination for Outstanding Drama Series, which did get in 2023 as well. Here's a complete list. I'll run down. Outstanding Drama Series. Outstanding Directing for a Drama Series for the episode Who Are You? Outstanding Writing for a Drama Series, Welcome to the Rebellion. Outstanding Production Design for a Narrative Period or Fantasy Program. Outstanding Cinematography for a Series. Outstanding Sci-Fi Fantasy Costumes. Astounding picture editing, music composition, original music and lyrics for the song "We Are the Gore." That's a good one. That's a good gift. Outstanding guest actor in a drama series, Forrest Whitaker as Saw Gerrera. Outstanding voiceover performance, Alan Tudyk as K2SA. Sound editing for a comedy or drama series, like the Comedy of the Bear. Sound mixing for a comedy or drama series, and special visual effects in a season or a movie. That it is. 14 nominations. Andor received 8 for its first season, but did not win an award. This is a great list, but none of the acting leads were nominated. So, Joseph, Disney and Lucasfilm made it very clear that it had a very hard push for these nominations. That was, as Tony now has said, me going out there to sell the show, not just promoting it, but to sell it. So, start with some general thoughts here on these 14 noms and the whole situation.
Yeah, in a way, it's better than I expected. There are a lot, and I think there is obviously the best drama series. Great, that happened the previous season as well, as you said. But also like directing, writing, cinematography. These are all sort of a big hitters compared to the normally like, hey, we'll throw them a sound design or maybe a costume design. But writing, cinematography, directing, there's all kind of heavy hitters to go with the drama series. So, hey, better than I expected in some ways. The acting thing is a real bummer. I think what I'm entertained by a little bit looking at this list is obviously the Disney Lucasfilm decides which of the episodes to put forward and to push. And it's interesting to me that even in a sort of gritty, heavy show like Andor, the things that got most of the bigger nominations is the Who Are You episode, the episode with a genocide is the word that Mon Mothma used, or but just a haunting, traumatic, violent episode got a nomination. The only actor other than Alec Tudyk's voice performance being Forrest Whitaker for the episode where he reveals he has a drug problem. It's just a little funny to me that sort of stereotype of going back decades now, if you want to win an award, perform somebody going through something difficult, do a film about a horrific real world tragedy. They're kind of fulfilling that old joke of like, we put up the massacre episode and the Saw Gerrera's got a drug problem episode and it paid off. A little, the things change and they don't change kind of humorous to me. Not to say anything negative about those episodes and that performance and that choice with Saw. Those things are all fantastic.
Yeah.
Not criticizing what was in the show. It's all the weird politics of what gets people to vote for an award.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this. You said like surprising in a way, right? Yeah, the far scope of the nominations, I think, is a great sign. And for me as a fan, we'll talk maybe about some of if Andor wins, but at least these nominations made it feel to me, as someone who does not follow awards, even when I worked more in the movie news world, even when I was in film school in the late 90s and was one of those people that had an Oscar scorecard and placed bets at parties, like I still think I don't even want to award, like I want your film, I want it to win an award. I don't want you to stand up there somewhere and get an award. I think it means something, but also it also means nothing. Right? It's everything and nothing. But these nominations and some of the categories, even some of the ones that they had last time out, just made it to me feel like this show it's done. This show was a player on the big scene.
Mm.
that was actually not imagined by us as fans this time around. That it now carries a little bit more weight, or brought more weight and more heft to it, and I like that. I like that about this list here.
Yeah, yeah. I also just think that I do like seeing the range of things that it's nominated for, from Forrest Whitaker's acting performance, to the big drama, to costume, to sound
Yeah.
design, like all those. Everybody has talked a lot about how incredibly good the world building is in Andor, and that's a multi-layered thing. So I am glad to see that it was, outside of
Mm.
acting, not snubbed on any level. Just in acting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thoughts on the lack of nominations for the leads? We're not in
Yeah,
this voting world.
yeah. I'm like you. Like I look at the Emmy nominations, because I think award shows matter in terms of sometimes exposing audiences to shows that are really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Golden Globes saved Mad Men and 30 Rock in like one
Mm-hmm.
year. I think they matter that
Sure.
way. I think they matter for um, artists getting a chance to make more art.
Mm-hmm.
I think for a thing like Andor, where it's not going to be a huge money maker, probably because we're not going to be getting Saw Gerrera, huffing Rhydonium lunchboxes. It is not as marketing friendly.
And that's a shame, quite frankly. That's a shame.
I mean, I wish there were people wandering around Galaxy's Edge singing "We Are the Gore," but some of the normal sort of marketing for Star Wars isn't as applicable to Andor. So the way that it could increase its exposure, increase its value, and increase the odds of more things like it being made are winning these awards. So I think they matter in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But also they can sometimes not matter. And for these actors, these phenomenal actors in Andor, it might have made it. I think it does make a difference a lot. It gives
Right.
management people's leverage, and I think Genevieve O'Reilly is probably going to get a bunch of auditions that she wouldn't have before Andor, and she probably would have got even more if she
Mm-hmm.
was nominated or won.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the awards do matter to these people's career. I think it's awful that there weren't more nominations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that looking at the list of actor nominations, I think I think a, I don't think that the lack of nominations for Andor was necessarily looking down on these performances, but getting pushed out by other performances.
Yeah.
White Lotus, in particular, White Lotus is just like an ensemble show where actors get to be weird for 13 episodes. And I'm not saying it's not good acting, but a lot of the slots are taken up just by the White Lotus. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have other things that people are loving right now, like Severance and The Pit and Bear and all that. So I feel like it's more a question of them getting pushed out.
I agree. I agree that, and that's a very maybe Diego Luna's looking into a mirror right now, telling himself that, right? But I also think it's true. And I just yes, we're living in this world, you and I, in this conversation of look, life goes on and there's other serious things, but it's just like when you put your life into it, and you're right, this can make or break your next 5, 10, 15 years or your entire legacy if you even win. And I get pulled by those stories where I like when a Adam Sandler goes all in on something and then doesn't even get nominated, and you're just like, God, oh, he tried it's but I was as an older Bill Murray fan back in the day, of just like Rushmore, Tannenbaum, or Life like Lost in
Mm-hmm.
Translation, something like he did it, man. He didn't. Mickey Rourke in The Wrestlers, example of like what like you. This was his moment, but all these performers, I do believe will have moments again. But it would have been nice. It would have been. To my earlier point of just confirming all of this as a player, but it does tap into what I think a lot of people have been talking about this week, and you and I are just getting to it at this point. But just some of that, the anti-genre, sheen is still out there on a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people's thoughts, and
I
it's
think so.
frustrating.
It is frustrating, and hey, we love Pedro Pascal, obviously, but his nomination is wonky with the way that season of that show goes. I don't want to say anything if people haven't seen it. And anyway, so I feel bad for Diego Luna. I feel shocked that Stellan Skarsgård didn't get nominated because it is such a Emmy nominated performance. Shocked by Stellan Skarsgård, and mostly just really bummed at the deep bench of amazing women who should have been in this supporting. To not, I mean, maybe Disney and Lucasfilm, I don't know what all their behind the scenes shenanigans are. Did they pick Genevieve O'Reilly and really push her? Did they pick Denise Gow and get behind her? Did they pick Adria Arjona, Elizabeth Dula? Did they pick any of them and really put them forth, or did they kind of push them all forth and they get canceled out by every other human being who was in the White Lotus? But Diego Luna did a great job. Stellan Skarsgård did a great job. Amazing. But I think some of the stuff that like Denise Gow did with that character was like, that is to make you root for the home life of a fascist who you were watching put the noose around her own neck with her horrible, evil choices, but still feel her as a human being. Like, just that was phenomenal. Everything that Adria Arjona kind of put herself through, those were normally, like, again, the Emmy nominated kind of like defending herself against a violent assault, struggling with depression and addiction, making a huge choice to sacrifice some of her own happiness for what she thought. Like, those, like, every scene she had is normally like award bait. What happened? It's just,
unfortunately, an imperial officer tried, right? If it had been fill in the blank of some real world organization. Yeah, and that's part of the frustration. And I think you're right to focus on, hey, look, there's just so many other talented performances, but I think it does it for old dogs like us. It's like, here we go again, right? Yeah. Here we go again. Yeah. It's old nerds being told you're too nerdy is what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah. It does. And yeah, who knows? Well, maybe HBO Max, Warner Brothers, maybe they served better hors d'oeuvres at some shindig, and that's why they got all the White Lotus actors across the line. But Lucasfilm, Disney didn't. These are behind the scenes campaigns too. I don't claim to know or understand all of it, but I think people sit at home and just like, what performance was great, and like there is so much more to it than that, but. Really, just everybody in Andor was fantastic, but that the group of women who could have and should have been nominated for supporting actor, I think, is kind of a shame.
I mean, Genevieve O'Reilly dancing drunk at a wedding, that should have just been it.
Yeah, I mean that Clea episode, just like, come on,
Elizabeth Dula should,
anyway.
Yeah, and again, like I said, in this perspective, state of the world and all, we totally get it. But I do, as lifelong Star Wars fans, this is part of the conversation this week. Yeah. And look, you're right, it's all campaigning, and you're a fan of the man who, as am I, but he's one of your icons, David Lynch, starting the greatest Oscar campaign of all time. That didn't necessarily work, but him on a chair with a cow or a cigarette is still the best.
People remember David Lynch on a street corner with a cow trying to get an Oscar nomination for Laura Dern for Inland Empire. I don't think people remember who won that year.
Right. You're right.
Maybe.
Final part of this is we've been talking about Star Wars and awards have always had an interesting relationship. It's always recognized. You're right. I remember as a younger kid, so this is probably, 83-ish. I don't know what all that really means, but then also the prequels come back too, and I'm older and I had gone through film school and I was a little bit more, not just, aware of some of the issues with the prequels, but just aware more of the film industry. But I just remember always getting excited and then realizing they just nominated it for music, Mom, and which it should be. They just nominated it for editing, like a lifetime achievement award. And I was always heartbroken. I was always heartbroken as a youngster. So we know there's this relationship. It never seems to get respected in the big categories. But if Andor wins one of these big ones, let's just say, and these are all things I want them to sweep. I want them to go 14 for 14. Outstanding drama series. Let's be honest. White Lotus, Severance. Those are the golden childs right now. Golden children. I understand. Directing, writing, something big. Based everything you and I've just said here today, with a little bit of the cynicism, a little bit of the shucks. What would that mean to you as a Star Wars fan?
I would be thrilled, and I think I would be thrilled partially because yes, there is a constant battle for people to see the stakes, the ideas, the drama, the power of a story when it's told with a genre, in a genre. There's always going to be that battle. You know, we're now decades into genre being extremely profitable. And there's still but there isn't really a story there. Even with Superman, a lot of people even like the film, just came out and said, it's silly, it's fun. It is fun and silly, but every idea is hugely important and complicated. There's a dog there, but the dog means shit. Anyway, sorry. So I guess it would. I'm always happy for a step forward for genre being recognized, and in a way, I am hopeful that Andor will win something. I don't think it will win drama, but I think it might win a big directing award or big writing award. I think it will definitely win the normal genre handholders of costume or sound design. Not that those things aren't important, but that's always we'll give you one of those because you gave people a weird hat and made a weird noise, so take that. Is I think the attitude.
We don't know what Gimli's axe is, but that axe looked real. You get the award. Yeah,
good job. You made up an axe. Yeah. I think the more we talk about it, the more annoyed I am about the acting, because if they had the acting,
sorry, yeah, that's great.
Then it would be a sweep, right? And I feel like the way that genre gets accepted is if it's gritty, with very few, exceptions. Like Lord of the Rings, broke the glass ceiling and then it was immediately fixed.
Yes.
For genre, when Return of the King won, right?
But, and which was even, some would argue, a somewhat of a consolation that it should have been Two Towers or something. That's that's a film file podcast we'll do another day. But
for Emmys, Game of Thrones has done fine. This year, The Penguins got a bunch of big crap. Like The Last of Us. Those are all heavy genre, but they're gritty genre. So I feel like if any Star Wars was really going to break the barrier, like Mandalorian's got some nominations and all that, and good for them. But I really thought Andor would be the one to sweep the board, because genre has a little asterisk by it, where a lot of, I think, awards politics are, it's kind of silly unless it's gritty. That take it seriously. In Andor, it's not, to me, gritty isn't a bad word. It's just a style word.
Yep.
And it is. It's heavy hitting.
Yep. And the thing I'm really, 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 really thankful for Andor right now, currently, and this week, and including that interview I was talking about, is that I can kind of be a little snarky when I'm saying it's so direct that it's almost simple to me. Like, oh, did you pick up the themes in Andor? Good for you. Go to this episode of Bad Batch and tell me about it. But I also, that's just the way of the world. You and I are deep in this stuff every week. I actually just had a 45-minute conversation with my buddy on a walk. He actually asked me, tell me about what you feel about Book of Boba Fett. And I talked about those speeders for 45 minutes on a walk, and he loved it. And I never thought of it. And he had already picked up on some of it. He was like, so if Andor can kind of open up the door, I'll be forever thankful. And that's what I would feel an award in one of these major categories. And again, you're right. All the other one, we've all been around. Sound editing and mixing, pretty important to films and not easy to pull off. You're living that life right now.
Yeah. Really. Yeah. Yeah, I want to be really, really clear that I've said some things about some awards being major and some being minor. I mean that from the perspective of the people choosing these awards, not from the reality.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
life work. It's life works from actually
yeah,
absolute experts in the field. But yeah, for me, a win in those big categories. I don't want to use justification because I don't feel we need a justification to be Star Wars fans. It doesn't matter to me. I am what I am.
yeah,
Popeye the Sailor Man. But
yeah,
it would matter. It would matter, and I'm hoping for it.
yeah, yeah. It would matter, and I'm hoping for some big wins, but also, Andor is going to live on and is going to be talked about. Andor is not a flash in the pan. I've watched every episode of White Lotus. I enjoy it, but I feel like shows like White Lotus are like, it's a water cooler show, and maybe it will last, or maybe 5 years from now it'll feel kind of like it's dated and we're all over it. 5 years from now we'll still be talking about Andor. 10 years from now somebody's going to be giving an interview saying I got into film because of Andor. Andor is going to be just fine if it doesn't win a single award.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. We'll be like White Lotus. Was that the one? Was that John in Cincinnati? Which one was that? Kid and White Lotus fans.
I enjoy it.
Away from me.
I enjoy it.
There we go. All right, so we'll keep you updated. Here's how little I care about awards. I don't even know where the Emmys are. I didn't look at them.
I think several, like 5 or 7 dates get nominated, and then the Academy.
And they choose. So we'll see. We'll head to the red carpet and see what Diego Luna is wearing. We'll see what a sensible sneaker Tony Gilroy puts on for the red carpet. Final story of the day. There's other stuff out there, by the way. There's some great stuff from Ryan Johnson, and I know a lot of people are talking about that. I do not want to speak for you, Joseph. We just didn't put it on a rundown. Just something that great stuff, interesting stuff. It feels that we've been saying it for the last 6 years, and maybe just didn't want to talk about it much today. That's my thought.
Yeah, I think it was great for him to clarify very clearly of like there was never any huge idea. We enjoyed working together, so we thought we'd work together some more, and I got busy with other things and they did, and I don't have a bunch of scripts. There's no big secret, Yeah. Don't Al Capone's vault me. There's nothing in there.
you don't know. Sorry, that was ended up being a 45-minute segment on my live show because I made a reference to it, and one of our Brady, who's also here, 898 for him.
Yeah.
We always do a test to see if Brady, our youngest viewer, knows the reference, and we ended up having a
wow.
What a cultural moment! That's so funny you say that.
It's stuck. It's stuck deep. Anyway, have fun Googling younger fans.
Anyways, so if you're wondering our thoughts on that, just review our podcast since 2017. That's our thoughts on Ryan episode 8, 9, all the things there. But hey, bigger news. I feel George Lucas is heading to San Diego Comic-Con. God, I hope he gets a hotel. Man, George, getting that lottery. You might have missed it. You'll be staying out by Hotel Circle.
The Sbarros are packed. Be careful, George.
Yes. It was announced this week that George Lucas will be in Hall H as part of a panel centered around the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, described as sort of a preview of what's coming. It's still scheduled to open in 2026. George will be joined by Lucasfilm Senior VP Doug Chiang. That's awesome. Makes a lot of sense. Director Guillermo del Toro. That's wonderful. Makes a lot of sense. And Queen Latifah will moderate the panel. And that maybe makes the most sense of all. I love Queen Latifah. It all takes place on July 27th, which I believe is the Saturday of the con.
No.
Friday? It's a
July
Friday.
27th?
Yeah.
27th? It's the Sunday. It's Sunday at 11 a.m. This is not a prime time slot for
I'm so sorry, George.
Right?
This is the worst. This is the worst panel day. And this is going away day.
Yes.
Oh, man.
People are leaving or hungover.
Sorry. I did my calendar wrong. So it's 11 a.m. So get in line now, though spaces might be open. Sorry, Hall H people, But though, look, it's all changed now. We can have the discussion. Saturday isn't owned by Marvel anymore because Marvel's like, we ain't here. Thoughts on this announcement, Joseph? And George finally getting to Comic-Con because Star Wars and San Diego Comic-Con have a wonderful history.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have lots of thoughts about the museum. I'm very entertained that they picked a museum time slot for this Sunday at 11 a.m.
Sunday at 11 a.m. Come on. Man.
Anyway, it is hilarious to think of George going to Comic-Con after all of this. I mean, going all the way back to him getting the clever guidance to promote Star Wars before it even came out at Comic-Con when it really was like
Mm-hmm.
here's aging Jack Kirby with a fold out card table, like, when
Yep.
it wasn't what it is now. And clearly the changes that he has made to the industry may have helped make Comic-Con what it is today, right?
I think
Um,
so.
so to think of him finally going there and finally going to this sort of like, I haven't been in several years, so I don't know how much it's changed, but just massive, sweaty party. It's
Mm-hmm.
a hype machine. Even if you're like, I just want to go to thoughtful panels, you're still like flowing through all that sweat and all those young people partying in hotels. And just like, it is such a, you know, there's you can't have a calm Comic-Con, even Sunday at
Mm-hmm.
11 a.m. Right?
Right.
In my experience, because it's just
Yeah.
the energy is there. So
It's still there.
imagining 80-year-old George sweating in his flannel,
Yeah. Yeah.
and going, well, I helped make this. I don't know what all you 60-year-olds are doing here. This is for 12-year-olds. Like, yeah, I hope he brings some of the it's for 12-year-olds energy.
uh, you're making me absolutely die over here because like I'm just imagining like my first major proper con, San Diego Comic Con. I was at that party downstairs at a bar, and the elevator opens up, and ding, and George R. R. Martin walks out, right? And this is my first night in Comic Con, and I'm just like, this is what happens. It's a Shangri La. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and about an hour later, I was dancing and talking with Kit Harington and Rose Leslie. Like you know. And by the way, that doesn't happen all the time, but I'd literally been there 6 hours. I was like, this is amazing. I want that to happen. I want the Sabaro George with his sensible sneakers to be like, any good parties to go? Can we get into the Entertainment Weekly party? And I want pictures of him and Melody Hobson just rocking that boat out there that they have that party out behind the convention center. They always rent out that
Mm-hmm.
boat. I
Oh
want that to
yeah,
emerge.
yeah, yeah, yeah. George R. R. Martin has had his boat parties out there. Yeah, um, yeah,
Anyways, side note.
yeah. So there's the George of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then there's also the museum of it all.
Yeah.
Um, I think if you are not just a fan of Star Wars, but if you're a fan of George Lucas, you should support this museum.
Yeah.
Is my opinion, because I think the museum is actually an uphill climb for him.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we're used to thinking George Lucas just, going to Sabaros and throwing someone $1,000 bill because he got $4 billion from Disney. The man spends his own money,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a museum is a brand new industry for him to get into at the ripe young age of 80 now.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
opening it. He's not he's doing this because he has to.
Yeah.
Because the museum has been delayed and delayed and delayed, and it has to open next year.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that it's been long enough and it's kind of buried enough that I feel like a lot of people don't remember the journey to this museum.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about with the awards. Is I think George wanted this museum to be his legacy, his permanent stamp. And I think he wanted it to not be a Star Wars museum,
Mm-hmm.
but a museum about storytelling, because he's very proud of Star Wars, but he sees himself as a storyteller, and he wants to promote the power of story. And I think he wants to kind of claim his place in what he's done for the importance in the power of storytelling in his one life that he gets on this earth. And he got a not in my backyarded by the first several cities. He tried to do it in San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco, and he got pushed out by other rich people who didn't want a little space museum in their backyard. I can't remember what the other city that he went for. I think Chicago.
Chicago.
And Chicago was like, we don't want a little space museum. Not Chicago, the city, but the right rich people on the right panels who think Star Wars is silly zip zap,
Mm-hmm.
space noises and flying around with your dog, and we don't want that gross BS in our backyard. LA actively courted it, and that's why it's here. George is not it's not a fan
Hmm.
of our city, Ken. Uh, he wouldn't want to go to Smokehouse with us, I don't think.
Oh,
Maybe
George.
Smokehouse.
Uh,
Come on,
I think
Smokehouse.
he would.
But you know what I mean? Like it's a well-known part of
Yeah.
his history of like it's not the city, it's the industry. It's
Yeah.
the games
He
of
got out.
Hollywood and the status and all
Yeah.
that. And he got out and he made his own thing. That's why he named his own documentary about himself, Empire of Dreams. If I went and had to go build my own studio and become the boss because I didn't like listening to
Hmm.
this cabal of bosses. Then I tried to build my museum, my legacy to honor storytelling and help future generations. And I got a bunch of people looking down their nose at me
Hmm.
for my little space movies when that's
Yeah.
not so anyway. The museum's going to be opening soon. I'll probably bang on about
Mm.
this again. It's not a slam dunk. It's a risk
Yeah.
for Lucas to get this open and to make it work and not close in 2 months. Um,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and he encountered a lot of the kind of looking down your nose at genre opposition that I think has haunted a lot of us.
Yep. Yep. And as we're talking, it's still present. Even even what I was saying up top about that interview that got me upset. It's there's some people who are in fans of genre who look down on genre.
Hmm.
I'm with you. I think very well said on this. I'll never go into Hall H unless I have to work at it. And walked in hand by my hand, it led into a Hall H. It is it's a thing, even though it's changed and it's less, crowded maybe as it used to. It's still crowded, as you said. But I absolutely agree with your sentiment there of support this. Whether or not you can fly out to LA and see
Yeah.
it, but if you're local, I can't wait to get to it. But yeah, and I know he's absolutely got to be wrestling with. I know why a lot of people are going to buy the ticket, and I got to give them a little bit of that, and I'm proud of that, the Star Wars of it all.
Hmm.
But that this panel I think will help move the ball down the field a little bit in that regard of here's what actually is
Yeah.
coming, and let's get excited for it. And I think at the end of the day, maybe it's in the right spot near USC. Here, there's some great museums down here and places that people enjoy. So hopefully it's in the right spot.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's by a bunch of other museums, and I
Hmm.
think it could do well.
Yeah, yeah. What are you looking forward to about the museum beyond just what to expect? And again, I will be honest and say, yeah, I absolutely want to see some Star Wars stuff. That's probably why I'm wearing the T-shirt. But like, yeah, Guillermo del Toro on this is intriguing to me because this is someone who I think is in that George mold of a
Hmm.
storyteller first and a fan of the industry that he's helping to build.
In someone who's always seen the depth in genre, like he,
Hmm.
he won awards for Shape of Water, which he made because he understood the depth of the Creature from the Black Lagoon, a thing that other people think is
Hmm.
just a crappy little B movie, and it's
Hmm.
just the reason it has
Yeah.
continued to be popular is because it's got some real meat on its bones. So I think he's
Mm.
probably pretty aligned with George's perspective on genre. For the actual museum, there will be Star Wars stuff because I don't think it's like George Lucas is like. I think he's very proud of Star Wars. I think it's just
Yeah.
and don't put me in a box. I'm also
Yes.
the Howard the Duck guy. No, but I think he also wants to
I
be known
hope
as
there's a
like.
whole wing. Hope there's a whole wing of Howard the Duck.
But I mean, people, I say it all the time of like all of the changes in the industry that were made. That was my other Star Wars adventure. I went to Amoeba and I saw a magazine from 2002 about
Mm.
but an interview with George Lucas and everybody being pissed off with him about the digital filmmaking of Attack the Clones and saying, "Will it
Mm.
stick? Is digital filmmaking ever going to work?" And like, you're never going to convince Quentin Tarantino. But besides that, you know,
Yeah.
pretty big
Yeah.
change. I'm looking forward to the Star Wars stuff. I also think that he's every success he's had as a storyteller and a filmmaker is because he's kind of done things his own way.
Hmm.
Um, and I know from working in museums that there are kind of like these. This is the way a museum is done,
Mm.
and I'm very curious to see how those worlds will meet. Of how much he's trying to sort of have the success he had in storytelling from being an innovator and somebody who tried to do things in a different way, and
Hmm.
applying that to a museum and seeing if it'll work.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing the history on full display of just the entire scope of narrative and art and all the things we talk about here of, comic books were our stories. These are the things that inspired us to be better people. These are the things that inspired us to go on and make things of our own or just live our lives in what we hope is a better way. And I think that's going to be on display. And he might never you're right. He's putting a flag down here, but he's going to be long gone before a 10-year-old walks into this and 20 years later is winning an award, and I think he's got that right angle on it. This is why it's certainly not going to be just a Star Wars museum. And I'm excited to see that on display, excited to walk around and soak it up myself, soak up the history of why a lot of us, you, me, Jen, and others get up in the morning to chase what we feel is our purpose, to tell stories.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
I do think it's a missed opportunity if the food court does not have a Sbarro in there. I will just say that. George has got a sense of humor. He is plugged in a little bit to the zeitgeist with his kids. Come on, George.
Come on,
it's got to be a Sbarro.
Please, there should, man. I hope there's someday a display of how does narrative about real people get built, and big blow up of all the Sbarro's photos of Lucas.
and I hope there's just a, and he would hate it, but I hope there's like a George wing that just displays all the meme art, and on display on a screen is looping of just him walking through that guy's dock. Where he just
yes.
It's just over and over and over again. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, opening in 2026, seriously, all jokes aside, if you're in San Diego Comic-Con, if you're attending, don't let these old cynical con folk tell you that it's what it is. Go experience it yourself, and if you get in there, it'll be a fun experience. And I'm sure George will be. I cannot actually wait to see him on that panel in Comic-Con and just be like, what is this?
I mean, yeah, he's George Lucas on chain these days as he gets older. So who knows what Queen Latifah will ask him, and who knows if he'll answer.
Yeah, and I just George, I'll give you a list of my favorite 7-Elevens in the Gaslamp District. They're easy to access. There's the one you shouldn't go to. You should go up the street a little bit. All right. Well, that's our look at Star Wars news. But as we have been doing recently, we got some little Star Wars mini questions. Jen and I had some fun with this last week, Joseph. So we'll just ask and see where the answers go. Joseph, what music legend would make a great Jedi?
This is a beautiful question, because who immediately comes to mind is musicians I like, and almost none of them would make good Jedi.
True.
But the ones that would make a good Jedi, two Jedi who could travel together. I don't know who would be the master and the Padawan, but they're both classic rock drummers. Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones, because he is the calmest rock and roll human who ever lived. I should say was. He sadly passed away a little while ago. All those loud rock and roll songs, Rolling Stones and Sex and Drugs and Danger, and he is just barely moving. He was incredibly calm. Famous story about Mick Jagger being a jerk to him and calling him my drummer. So Charlie Watts got up, punched Mick Jagger once, and that was the end of it. It feels very Jedi-like. If I don't want to use violence, but I will punch Mick Jagger once, and then we won't have a problem again for decades. And then Ringo Starr, come on, he meditates, and every other word out of his mouth is peace. He's practically is a Jedi. He's a Jedi who happened to drum for the Beatles.
This is amazing, because this was going to be my answer too, Joseph. Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr is the most Jedi-like, because everything about him is his goal of peace and love. Even when he's telling you to please stop sending fan mail, he does it with peace and love. And he just goes around the world trying to bring that to everybody. I had some other options, some of our favorites. Yeah, maybe Lady Gaga. Maybe David Bowie might have been a Jedi. We just didn't know. Maybe he was from another galaxy.
Prince quit. Yeah.
Prince quit. And then,
the Jedi Order. He's one of the lost 20.
Absolutely is. Prince is one of the last 20. George Harrison for the spiritual side. But at the end of the day, I do believe I'm with you. Charlie Watts is a great answer, but Ringo Starr is truly a Jedi. Great stuff. All right. Second question of the day. Joseph, what Star Wars scene would you add an Ewok to?
Well, I had some criteria for this. One was I wanted to make canonical sense. I wanted it to be after Return of the Jedi, so the Ewoks could be exploring the galaxy as they're, taken off of the moon of Endor. And then I had two other criteria. I needed to see the Ewok be violent, and I wanted to see the Ewok have some fun. So I would like to place an Ewok at Maz Kanata's bar in The Force Awakens, and we can see a wild, partying Ewok maybe getting up on a table and taking their little head wear off and swinging around. And then in those dark forests of Tokadana, just slaughtering First Order troops.
That is a great answer. I appreciate the canonical approach that you took with it. I just simply want to pluck Poplu off the speeder bike, take him about 30 years earlier, and drop him into a pod racer. And I just want to see him woo 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 as he is going through Beggar's Canyon and coming up on Sepulva's rear. And by the way, he'll need to have a little bit of jet juice to make this happen, which I always felt Poplu had a little bit of an issue, which is why he was able to get on that speeder bike. But yeah, absolutely. I think you and I are in the same spot, though. The unpredictability of Ewoks makes them valuable to any situation you want to put him into in Star Wars. And an Ewok in a pod race works for me.
Pod racing with liquid courage. That is a noble goal for an Ewok.
Pod race responsibly, everybody. Pod race responsibly. All right, that is it. Thank you all out there listening. If you're listening later on in life, you probably don't know that this week was a little bit chaotic for all three of us. So Joseph, Jennifer, and I absolutely want to thank you all for your forgiveness on our schedule switches this week. Only a couple episodes this week. We'll be back to normal and up and soon, running up and normal soon. Also, check out the Communities Why We Love Star Wars episode with Nick Gambarian of Bayside. We had that out last week. He is just a wonderful, warm human being, and we had some great conversations about not just community in Star Wars, but the community of Star Wars fans, and a lot of stuff with conventions. So check it all out, folks, there if you want. On social media, you can find us at ForceCenter Pod. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We are available as a podcast on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Merch available still at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. But pretty soon, everything will be transitioned over to Fourth Wall. Head to our Fourth Wall shop. Links down below here on YouTube. A lot of cool things there. And if there's things you want specifically, let us know. If there's a big push for satchels with our logo on it, we'll make them. We'll put them in there. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Get into that Discord, where occasionally, I'll admit, get a little grumpy, but it's all with love for Star Wars. And you can follow me at Kednapsuck, or go to my website, kednapsuck.com, and mention my show, The Blathering. I'm really doing a big push on this. Proud of what we do over there in that community. Check out The Blathering live on my YouTube channel there. Joseph, you are working very hard on your own piece of narrative art. Tell the folks where they can still support that journey.
Yeah, you can go to josephscrimshaw.com and you can subscribe to my weekly blog letter, Finish Your Monsters, where I'm talking a lot about how I'm working on the film and other life adventures. If you want to directly support it financially, you can make a one-time tax-deductible donation to this horror film by clicking the link for the organization Film North, which is helping me out. They're a great organization based in my home state of Minnesota. You can also follow me on Blue Sky and Facebook and Instagram and all those places.
There you go. That's it. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.